All right, here's your Unit 3 quiz review. First one, write that quadratic in standard form. Basically, you're just multiplying a whole lot of stuff together. So you're going to start out by writing the x minus 5 twice. This is not really about intelligence. It's more about organization and being willing to write it out. Because there's going to be a few steps of writing that you're going to have to do. You can do it, though. Pep talk, go team. I believe in you. All right, that 4 is going to hold on. What are we going to have when we multiply this together? X times x. Good, x squared. And then we want to do the outsides and insides together. So what will that give us? Perfect, thank you. Minus 10x. And then negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. All right, then what? Yep, good. Multiply 4 to everything. So that'll be 4x squared minus 40x plus what? 100. And then minus 1 will be 99. I'm just going to go ahead and combine those in the same steps so I don't have to write it all over again. If you want to, you can. All right, 4 times 25 was 100, minus 1 was 99. That's it. That's all you got to do. Multiply stuff together. Do we feel comfortable with that? Okay. 2 and 3 are the same kind of thing. Write the quadratic in vertex form. So we're going to go back the other way. That means complete the square. And then we'll state the vertex and the axis of symmetry. All right, so what you're going to do is write down the first 2 terms. And if you want to use another color, I think that this helps. You want to divide by 2 and square. So what am I going to add on here? 16. Give it a hug. Now you have to maintain the integrity of the problem, which means you can't just go around changing it. It was a 19. I wanted a 16 there. So how do I turn a 16 back into a 19? Plus 3, good. And then the whole point is that you can write it as something squared. And so what will go in that blank? I'll give you a hint, it starts with an X. Good, x minus 4. I heard somebody say it back then. X minus 4. So the whole point of that is now you can see what the transformations are. So using words like up, down, left, and right. Hey guys, how did this get shifted? Good, right 4, up 3. So your vertex would be 4, 3, went right 4, up 3. And then the axis of symmetry, you do have to put x equals because it's a vertical line. And it'll be x equals what? 4. Good, those are going to match. This one's the exact same thing, but there's a 2 in front, okay? I know that that looks a little bit scary, but what you're going to do is factor it out of the first 2 terms. We're not going to worry about the 65. 2 won't go into 65 anyway, and we're going to adjust for that number in the end, so it just doesn't matter. When you divide 2 out of those 2 terms, what are you going to get? X squared plus, good, 12x, good. Here's where we complete the square. And somebody back there's ahead of me because I heard you say this number already. What are we going to add on? Good, 36. Now here's the thing, it's not really a 36, it's a 2 times 36, so it's really a 72. Okay, thank you for heads nodding, that's awesome, right? It's a 72 that we have to turn back into a 65. If it helps you to make a number line, because I'm a real visual learner, we're at 72, I want to get back to 65. How much are we going to subtract off? Be 7. And you can count on your fingers if you need to. Don't ever let anyone tell you that that's not a good idea, okay? And then you can write it as 2 times something squared minus 7. That's the whole point, is you're trying to write it as something squared. And what will go in the blank there? Good, perfect, x plus 6. So this graph went left 6 and down 7. So your vertex will be -6, -7. It went left 6, down 7. And if you need a visual for that, like left 6, down 7, you can do that and then see where that point is. Like it helps you to have a visual. And then your axis of symmetry, x equals -6. Are we okay so far? Okay. These ones are solving by factoring. We're going to draw our two sets of parentheses and then split it apart. I do not mind any type of factoring you want to do, like whatever method you learned last year. If you want to do that, that's fine. I do guess and check because I feel like that builds your number sense, like especially when you guess wrong, like you're like, oh, I see what happened there, and it builds your number sense. But whatever works for you, however you get the right answer is cool with me. What numbers multiply together to equal 6? 3 and 2, and then what else? 6 and 1. Okay. What numbers multiply together to be 5? Yeah, 5 and 1. And I don't worry about the symbols plus and minus until the end. Like, just try to get the number. And we want to balance this so we end up with 13 in the middle. So do you want to try the 1 and the 6 or the 2 and the 3? All right, 2x, 3x. If you guess wrong, it is no biggie. You just erase it and try something else. Now here we don't have a choice. It's 1 and 5. Do you want the 1 in the first parenthesis or do you want the 1 in the second parenthesis? Second. All right, and let's see what we get. What are the outsides giving us? 2x, good, and the insides, 15. Well, 15 and 2 add or subtract to give us 13. Yes, now worry about the symbols. We want a positive 13, so we would need a plus 15 minus 2. 15 minus 2 would give you 13. We got it right on the first try, very nice. All right, now don't stop there. It is such a sad day when people stop there because I have to take off points. You have to actually finish the problem and get your 2 answers. You have to set those equal to 0. So just don't stop, okay? And if you get stuck, make up something and set them equal to 0, because then I can give you credit for the answers. Does that make sense? Like if you can't figure out how to factor it, I'm not joking, invent something and then solve it, because I'll give you credit for the answers. All right, this one, you would subtract the 5, divide by 2. So negative 5 halves. And then what would this one give you? 1/3, perfect. All right, this one's also factoring. This is a difference of squares. You want to notice the 4 and the 81 are both perfect squares. So how does the 4 split? Yeah, good, 2 and 2. 81 is 9 and 9, and then symbols plus and minus. It doesn't matter which one you make which. And then again, set them equal to 0. So this one will give you negative 9 halves. This one will give you positive 9 halves. All right, these two are solved by completing the square. So the first thing that you want to do is subtract over that 3 and leave a little gap. Again, I think it helps if you use another color. What do we want to add to both sides in order to complete the square? What are we going to add here? Good, 25 to both sides. And then the whole point is you can write that as something squared. That's why we do that. So what would go in the blank? Good, x plus 5. And then on the other side, we've got negative 3 plus 25, be 22. That's what we did when I taught completing the square. And then last class, we just kept going so that you can get x by itself. How do you get rid of the squared? Good, square root. And what do you put in front of the square root? Plus and minus. 22 won't split, so just don't. And then your last step is to subtract the 5, but just make sure you put it out front, because otherwise it can look like it's underneath the root. It'll be negative 5 plus and minus square root of 22, which is a great answer. Don't discriminate. Actually, it's how many answers? Dude, yeah, good. It's 2 answers, one for the plus and one for the minus. And then this is the exact same thing, but there's a 3 out front, okay? Your first step is still to subtract over the 7. We're just gonna factor a 3 out of the other side. The most common mistake I see on these is people just don't divide out the 3. If you do that, you're gonna get really big numbers. I'm going to keep the numbers small for you. When you divide out the 3, what are you left with? Good, it'll be x squared plus 4x. And then you have to divide by 2 and square. So what will we add on for this one? 4, yeah, 4 is kind of weird. Ends up being itself because 2 times 2 is 4 and 2 plus 2. Now it's not really a 4 though, it's a 3 times 4. So what are we gonna add over here? Good, 12. And that's not hard, you just have, like, I know you can do 3 times 4, but you just have to be aware of it. All right, so the whole point is that'll be something squared, and in the blank will be x plus what? 2, good. Equals -7 plus 12, we 5. And again, that's what we did when I taught completing the square. Last class, we just finished it up. So we have, what, 3 more steps here. First thing, divide over the 3. And you just leave it as 5 over 3. That's the great thing about non-calculators. You just don't do anything. You leave all the numbers alone. And then square root. So yeah, it's a plus and minus square root of 5/3, which is fine. And then what's your last step? Yeah, subtract 2, and again, just make sure you write it out front. So it'll be -2 plus and minus square root of 5/3. If you get a really wacky answer, you probably did it right. All right, here's your word problem. Make sure that you're aware of the units. Time is in seconds, height is in feet. It's about a ball that goes up into the air and comes back down. And the first question is, what is the maximum height reached and when does this occur? You're being asked for this vertex point. So that center point. Does anyone remember the little formula that I gave you to get that? If not, I'm going to remind you, but does anyone remember it? Good, -b over 2a, good, perfect, nice. -b over 2a, that's going to give you that center. So you don't have to memorize the whole quadratic formula. I'm just asking you to remember that tiny little bit. All right, so what is b in this equation? 12, good. So it's -12 over 2 times a, which is -2. Remember, I'm going to keep the numbers small for you because it's non-calculator. So I have to give you little numbers that turn out pleasant. All right, that would be -12 over -4. Negatives cancel, which is good because we can't have negative time. And so this is 3. 3 is the x value. That's like our axis of symmetry. Would be x. So how do I get the y value? Well, what am I going to do with 3? Plug it in. All right, let's see what we get. 3 squared is 9 times -2 is -18 plus 12 times 3 is 36 and then plus 4. So let's see, -18 plus 36 would be 18 plus 4 is 22. And then just remember, we write it backwards. You don't go around talking. The maximum is 3, 22. You would say it's 22 what? Good, feet at time 3 seconds. And again, the example I always bring up is like the weather. The high temperature is 70 degrees at 3 o'clock. Like that's how you would say it. When does the ball hit the ground? Well, hey guys, if it's on the ground, how many feet in the air is it? 0. You're going to set this equation equal to 0 and solve it. So essentially, it's exactly like number 7 that we just did. Just whatever you did for number 7, we're going to do that again. Actually, I can make all these numbers a little bit smaller, though. This will reduce. Do you see how we have a 2, a 12, and a 4? What do those all divide by? 2, actually, and we can divide out by -2. Let's do this. It'll make the numbers a little bit smaller. Actually, I may have made this one factor. I can't remember. Let's see how it turns out. You divide everything by -2. That'll give you t squared minus 6t minus 2. No, that will not factor. So we're going to have to complete the square. So first step would be add over the 2. And we're going to divide by 2 and square. So what will we add to both sides there? 9, good. And so this will be t minus 3 squared. And that's like when you hear that in t minus 3 seconds, like that's where that comes from. Equals 11. Almost there, square root. Now you won't put a plus and a minus on this one. You will only do the plus because we only do positive time. I don't think I'll take off if you put a plus and a minus, but just be aware there's no negative time. And then you would add over the 3. So 3 plus square root of 11 seconds. That would be like some crazy decimal without a calculator. I don't know what it is. That is a just fine answer. And then I save a really easy one for last so you can kind of like go out on a good note. What height is the ball thrown from? Well, that's at time 0, because when the ball is thrown, that's like the beginning of the story. Does anyone take physics? Have you like initial position of something? Initial, yeah, I'm seeing some heads nodding, like that initial time. Anyway, you're putting in time 0. So if you plug in 0 for all these t's, you're just left with 4. So 4 feet. It's always just going to be that leftover number.